Guys, this video is sponsored by our friends at Geology. This award-winning men's skincare company will formulate a customized skincare routine just for you using a handful of proven, powerful ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for decades. In fact, Geology is one of the only men's skincare companies to have retinol as an active ingredient in their products. If you suffer from acne, dark circles under your eyes, wrinkles, or sensitive skin, look no further. To get started, take Geology's 30-second diagnostics quiz, and their team of dermatologists will design and ship a regimen directly to your door. It really is that simple. Their face wash is incredible. It smells amazing, and I love the way it makes my skin feel after I use it. With over 4,000 five-star reviews, why not give it a try? Start today with a 30-day trial of all 4 products. Their everyday face wash, vital morning face cream, repairing night cream, and nourishing eye cream. Head to geology.com, take their free skincare quiz, and with this exclusive offer, you will save 70% off your entire first purchase, or just click on the link below. Colby and Masvidal, what do you do next? It's a complicated question, guys. It's generally not for everybody else, but let's break these two down, and let me tell you why it is. Colby Covington is the #1 contender. Colby Covington is the next best guy in the world, aside from the champion. So what does Colby do? Like every other #1 contender, he gets to fight for the championship, right? Well, no, wrong, because he already did. And he already did a second time. So what does he do? You can't find anybody to beat him. You can't find anybody to take his spot away from him. So we just act like there's an asterisk there. The #1 contender doesn't get a fight for the belt, and then we try to explain to the audience, or hope that the question is never asked as to why not. And if it is asked, we say because he already did. Okay. We're not shunning him. Everybody's doing everything right. Colby is not being cheated here. He has fought for the belt. That is why the #2 or the #3 or the #4 guy will be fighting for it next, and not him. I don't begrudge that. I'm trying to paint a picture for you of how unique this is. Anybody else in the world that has clearly identified themselves as a #1 contender gets to fight for the belt, except for Colby. He is the only one. So what does Colby do? Colby is still the #1 contender. Colby is still a huge draw. Colby is still selling out. Now, 2 arenas back-to-back in main event spots. He gets the credit for that. He tries to take this golden ticket of his called #1 contendership, and he tries to cash it in at 185 pounds. That got not only dismissed, that got laughed at. Fine. Colby didn't feel bad for himself. He saw that it was dismissed, and he quickly shifted gears. He went after a different world champion, this time down a weight class. 155 in Dustin Poirier. So in 5 days, Colby called for 3 different opponents. Colby did everything Colby's supposed to do. Colby is the best guy in the world, not named Kamaru Usman. That's just the truth. But what does he do if he doesn't get a fight for the belt? He's just going to run out Kamaru's clock? Wait for Kamaru to either retire or to get upset? Wait for Kamaru to get an injury where he can't fight, an interim belt comes up? Maybe. I mean, if it's the best you can do, that's what Colby will do. But he's trying to stay busy. He's trying to stay active. He understands this business as well as he does the sport, and he made sure to do the one thing that he should do, which is before that microphone gets pry out of his hands and passed to the next guy that's going to be up in a week, he made sure to lay out the fact of who he's going to fight next. He did all of those things. Colby did everything right. He got told no about Usman. He got told no about the style bender. He got told no about Dustin Poirier. What's the other options, guys? Sit around and wait for somebody to call him out. Nobody has called Colby Covington out. Nobody. I don't just mean since he beat Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal didn't call him out. Nobody's called him out in the history of his career. Kamaru Usman didn't call him out. So what do? And there is one exception to the statement I just made. Colby has been challenged by one man and one man only, and that was Gilbert Burns. But Gilbert Burns has played his full on April 9th in Jacksonville on pay-per-view against a guy named Khamzat Chimaev. Whoever wins that fight goes on to fight for the belt. Whoever loses that fight, before you think is the perfect matchup for Colby, you think that today, but whoever loses that match is now coming off a loss. Coming off a loss to take off a guy coming off a win. Even if it makes the most sense, it's unlikely to happen. So it comes back to what do you do? And I'm asking you very sincerely, what do you want? Colby's made it clear what he wants, which is he doesn't give a damn. He just wants it to be in line with what you want. Colby is the #1 contender and a returning multiple-time main eventer would like to keep his spot in a sold-out arena on pay-per-view in the main event. That's all he's trying to do. He's throwing ideas out there as to who that could be. He's waiting for something to come back to him. He's not asking for something easy. He called 3 names in 5 days, and the only thing these 3 names have in common is they all got 12-pound gold belts somewhere on the mantle saying that they were world champion. So he's not looking for something easy. He's not trying to pull one over here. He's just trying to get something back, and nothing's coming. He is the only #1 contender in our sport who does not get to fight for a world championship. I'm not saying it's not fair. I'm not saying he didn't get his opportunity. I'm spelling out for you that he wants to do something really hard. He wants to take a really big risk. He's willing to do it in the hardest of circumstances, which is 25 minutes in front of the world, half naked. Somebody's got to meet him part way. Somebody out there must want to be in a main event. Somebody must want to be in a feature match. Somebody must want the media tour that comes along with the Colby show. But nobody has stepped forward, so Colby himself offered 1, 2, 3 names. He got told no on all. Come on, that's a tough spot. Where's the courage at in this? Colby's shown it. He showed it by throwing his venom around to 3 different world champions. Where's the next guy now? Take a look at Masvidal, okay? Masvidal woke up the morning he fought Colby, the second biggest draw in the sport and the BMF champ. Masvidal wakes up today, the second biggest draw in the sport and the BMF champion. Masvidal, in addition to those things, has now signed an extremely lucrative contract. And if you take all of those things together, you realize that Masvidal is going to stay a main eventer. So Masvidal has got to get himself in 5-round shape at all times, because the only name coming out of the hat, no matter who it is going to be a really big damn deal, and they're going to be on the top of the bill. Fine. But Masvidal went to a press conference. He didn't do what Colby did. He did not call somebody else out. Masvidal did what you should not do, which is nothing. He said, look, I'm going to take a month. I'm going to take a month. I'm quoting Masvidal. I'm in the passenger seat for this one. I believe in my managers. I believe in my coaches. My next opponent will be whoever my management and coaches tell me my next opponent's going to be. I'm okay with that. Normally that would piss me off. But Masvidal's been around so long. He's done so much heavy lifting. He's fought everybody, including the champ. That's where he's at. I got no problem with it. If we don't put Masvidal and McGregor together, I'm not going to understand what we're doing here. But I don't have to understand it. I mean, I really don't have to. When you have the 2 biggest draws in the sport, #1 and #2, absolutely no exception, absolutely undeniable, and you can get them together, it just seems to me that you would. I leave it at that. There's not a contendership on the line. There's not a world title belt out there. It's a straight-up grudge. Dana had made a comment in Beverly Hills on the streets walking to dinner for a random stranger who happened to have a camera that turned out the guy worked for TMZ. And Dana's comment to that guy is, no, I would not put Masvidal and McGregor together because Masvidal's too big for him. Well, Conor took that as a challenge. Conor picked right up on that, and it pissed him off. Conor comes out in his very next fight against Cowboy Cerrone at, ding ding, 170 pounds. That had nothing to do with Cowboy Cerrone or January 19th at T-Mobile. It had 100% to do with the comment that Dana made that said Conor wasn't big enough, so they want to fight. And I got to remind you guys of this story because people are throwing water on it. People are acting like this didn't happen. People are acting like we can't get the 2 biggest stars together. What in the hell are we doing if we can't do that? Of course we can. You bet we can. We can even make it for a belt considering Masvidal still got it. So in the question of what's next, what's going to be next, I don't see these challenges coming. And there's a lot of guys within the sport that feel I can't challenge a guy who lost. They're wrong. That's not a rule. That's not a rule. Masvidal has now lost 3 fights in a row. Masvidal's next fight will be highly paid in front of a sold-out arena on top of the bill. Our fans are different than boxing because our leadership is different than boxing. One thing that Dana White never gets credit for, but possibly the #1 thing he should be credited for, he made losing acceptable. In combat, that just wasn't a thing. You cannot get the top boxers to box one another. One guy's 12-0 and this guy's 12-0 and they're the same age and they'll stay away from each other. Because if you lose a fight in boxing, you can't come back. You lose 3 fights in boxing, you're a bum. You will never main event again. You lose 5 fights. Oh my God, if you lose 5 fights, they'll talk about you 20 years later how terrible you were. Boxing has not made losing acceptable. MMA has. I'm telling you, our biggest stars. Conor McGregor, followed by Jorge Masvidal, followed by Diaz. Either one. Anybody with the last name of Diaz, they all got one thing in common. They didn't win their last fight. They got another thing in common. They didn't win their last 2 fights. It doesn't make a bit of difference in our sport. It's iron on top of iron. We put the best against the best. We do not expect you to be 50-0 or 200-0. We know that you're not going to be. But LeBron loses games every single month. LeBron will lose 2-3 games in the same month and be world champion at the end of that month. That's how real sport works. Dana made sure that our fans and our audience understand that. Nobody gets padded here. We, the audience, will decide what we want to see. We'll let you know. I don't make Conor McGregor the biggest star. I didn't make Jorge Masvidal the second biggest star. I didn't make the Diaz boys number 3. You guys did. So I'm telling you what you like, whether you know it or not. You like stories. You like fights. You like guys that want to fight. That's what makes for a main event. No name just gets pulled out of a hat for a main event. If you're jerking the curtain, if you're the first 3, 4, 5 fights of the card, that was random. You had no story, you had no buildup, and you started to manufacture some maybe after a bout agreement was signed that was put together arbitrarily by 2 voices over the phone because the matchmakers have contracts that they must satisfy legally. Okay, if you really like the sport, fair enough. If you don't, stick around because there are going to be 5 fights tonight that these guys created before the bout agreement came into place. It's all relevant. What does Colby do next? Who wants to fight him? Let's start with that. Raise your hand. If you already have a contract signed to fight somebody else so you know you can't fight Colby, put your hand down. And if you look around at how many are still up, it's none. He's going to have to start something from scratch, which is what he did 3 times in 5 days. Usman, Dustin, Izzy. Colby's willing to do something hard. He would like a return on that investment. That's reasonable. Masvidal's in the same spot. But he's a little bit more willing. He's got a new contract. He's got an old school mindset. He understands he's coming off a defeat. He doesn't want to break the rule and start calling someone else out. He's letting you know he wants to be called out. Take advantage of that. The second biggest draw in the sport, who's guaranteed a headline position, is looking for a partner. Make it you.